Sort of an odd flip through for you today. Hey, it's Care. Welcome to Montague at the Lake. Flip Through Friday is now hosted by the lovely Harmony at Harmony's Creations. It is an open collaboration started by the beautiful Christina at Christina's Shack. And what that means is we get to flip through anything we want. Doesn't have to be Friday. It doesn't have to be a finished product. Can be anything we want. To show you, flip you through our supplies, flip you through our ideas, flip you through some cool books or magazines or vintage something or old antique something. So I guess there is no such thing as an odd flip through. I've been wanting to bring this to you for quite some time. This is a fairly hefty coffee table book that was a gift to me by a very, very dear friend of mine who sadly has now passed on. And he was always very supportive of my creative endeavors. And I want to bring you this not just to show you that it's a cool and awesome book, but because sometimes as creatives, we get a little shade. It's probably a dated term already, but we get a little crap from people who don't get it for being flighty, for flitting from one project to another. Junk journal, or is it art journals this week? Or are you writing poetry this week? Or are you taking up watercolor? Or what is it that you're doing? You know, making jewelry or painting on driftwood or painting on glass. I mean, we just tend to flit around and explore options. Even within one area, you know, we for a long time we're doing vintage journals, and then we decide, I want to throw some bright paint around and start making neon journals or pop art journals or 80s glue books. And I want to just say that is the nature of being a creative person. And people who aren't as, I think everybody is born creative. I think that's why we're here, to create the next thing, to just keep evolving and coming up with new ideas. And when I hear the term go forth and multiply, I don't think that means go and have as many kids as you want. I think that means go forth and multiply your ideas and your endeavors and your passions and make the world a better place through being creative. And we all are creative in that every day we create our wardrobes, we create our home, we create our menus, we create our weekly plan, we create how cozy our bedroom is, we create every single day. Some of us have explored and expanded beyond the daily, regular creative stuff to pursue art or to pursue music. But creativity is not just for the arts with a capital A. It's for everybody. And it's okay to be creative in writing, and it's okay to be creative in painting, and it's okay to be creative in junk journals and have that multi-passionate creative life. And this book is proof of that we are not alone. There's 8 billion people on this planet. We are not alone in anything ever. We are all unique little snowflakes. Yes, indeed. But if we're feeling it, someone else has felt it. You know, we're not that unique. Certainly not as unique as we'd like to think. Drives me bananas when people say, oh, I know, I'm weird. I like cottage cheese and gravy. So do I, and so does my father, and so do my aunts, and it's not that unique. It's, no, you're not weird. Anyway, this is called The Writer's Brush, Paintings, Drawings, and Sculpture by Writers. And this beautiful front cover is 2 women reading, and I think it's a painting by Sylvia Plath. It is tempera paint, 18 by 24 inches, painted by the poet Sylvia Plath. And just since we're here, we'll take a look at some of her other things. What else do we have here? Illustrations accompanying articles that she did. She did this self-portrait here. And that is pastel. also 24 by 18 inches. And I'm just bringing this because it's a beautiful book and because I want you to feel perfectly okay with being multi-passionate. Some gorgeous illustrations by R.M. Ballantine. If I'm reading this right, Keller, in the 1800s, so this is nothing new, is recognized today as Switzerland's greatest fiction writer. So he's known as a writer, but he paints. Anyone who's familiar at all with Johnny Depp know that he paints. He's not just an actor. Jim Carrey paints a lot. He's not just an actor. He's a creative person. He's creative with his face. He's creative with his jokes. He's creative with his career, his wardrobe, his hair, and he paints and he acts. I marked all of these places for people that you might be familiar with. Victor Hugo, I'm sure, is, if you read at all, you've probably heard of Victor Hugo, French literary giant. He left behind paintings and some 3,000 drawing. The creative stuff, sometimes you can't stop it. And junk journaling doesn't scratch that itch. And art journaling doesn't quite scratch that itch. And so we're always looking for ways to express or to deal with that creative energy. That doesn't have to be a bad thing. People will call you flighty. People can just be cruel, especially when they don't understand what it is they're talking about. Evan Hunter, Ed McBain, is a very widely imitated creator of police procedural and mystery writing. He does his writing so well, people emulate him / copy him. He also paints. This is oil on canvas. It's a close-up detail of one of his oils on canvas. He is also a sculptor. This is a bronze that he has done. And it's just beautiful. And it's so nice. This is one of my most treasured possessions. Again, because it was a gift and because the person giving it to me really, I won't say got it because he didn't. He'd always say, I just don't understand it. I wish I could do what you do. I don't understand it. But he was creative in his own way. He could tell a good band when it was still playing in grunge bars. He'd know that band was going to go places, and he was rarely wrong. He had his creative energy was in music. Although God bless his pea-picking heart, couldn't dance, had no sense of rhythm whatsoever. I never understood how someone who loved music so much couldn't feel the beat, couldn't just feel it in his bones. I'm lucky that both my parents are extraordinary dancers, and they passed that along to me, thankfully. I love to dance. I can't help but dance when certain songs come on. I don't care where I am. I just dance. That's another creative outlet. Rudyard Kipling was also an illustrator. He did pen and ink work. This is a 7.5 by 6 inch pen and ink of how the whale got his throat. Pen and ink. I don't know how big that one is. This one is 7.5 by 6 inches. Again, pen and ink work. Very, very pretty. See who else we can find. D.H. Lawrence. And I love these stories. This is such a fun book to read through because the stories are so fantastic. Although he had been instructed in art as a child and had drawn and watercolored over the years, it was not until he was 40, just 4 years before his death, that D.H. Lawrence found himself, to his astonishment, quote, bursting into paint. He would not have started, he wrote, if Maria Huxley, wife of Aldous Huxley, hadn't come rolling up to our house near Florence with 4 rather large canvases, one of which she had busted, and presented them to me because they had been abandoned in her house. Painting was a physical pleasure for Lawrence. It is to me the most exciting moment when you have the blank canvas and a big brush full of wet color and you plunge. It's just like diving in a pond. There you start frantically to swim. watercolor and oil. He did both. Edward Lear was the 20th of 21 children. Oh my God. To my only child brain, that's too many. The boy was stricken with epilepsy at 5, and the shame associated with the seizures increased his sense of isolation, so he sought to hide from those around him. Yet at 16, Lear was supporting Anne and himself, his eldest sister, with his drawing. Wow. In 1846, Lear decided to illustrate his Book of Nonsense, a collection of the limericks he had used along with piano improvisations in order to entertain children and adults at the Earl's estate. So we have some beautiful pen and ink here, oil on canvas and oil on canvas. Just exquisite work. Mark Twain. Ever heard of him? LOL. Has always doodled and drawn. Had always doodled and drawn. America's greatest humorist, did playful illustrations when instructing his children and employed pictographs as lecture notes. It appears he also did serious art study with the best instructors in drawing and painting in Germany, although it's hard to tell with what result, given his humorous self-deprecation. Whatever I am in art, with a capital A, I owe to these men. I have something of the manner of each and all of them, but they all said that I had also had a manner of my own. Okay, there is one of Mark Twain's self-portrait. Looks like just an ink sketch. William Butler Yeats, some beautiful ink sketches and pastel. Just beautiful. This is just a tiny little piece, almost 7 inches by 9. Very small little pastel. Of course, Charlotte and Emily Bronte, the Bronte sisters, the whole family was just seething with creativity of all kinds. Like all the Bronte children drew and painted. There's a book out called The Art of the Brontes from 1995 that includes 180 known illustrations by Charlotte, 131 by Branwell, 29 by Emily, 37 by Anne, and 22 of dubious attribution. Only Charlotte and Branwell exhibited in their lifetime. Just beautiful work. And again, the reason I'm bringing all of this to you is I want to encourage you to feel good rather than guilty about possibly leaving some projects behind. If they don't speak to you right now, let them go. If they don't speak to you next year, cut them loose and move on. It's okay. It's also okay to stick with things. If you're still loving it, stick with it. Stick with it. Charles Bukowski, one of like the world's angriest poet. I love his work. I find it hilarious because he's an angry old curmudgeon. He's just, pardon me, he's just pissy. But he also did oil painting and watercolor and looks like some pen and ink work. I also want you to notice, while they may excel at one thing, Bukowski's, you either love him or hate him, he did very well in his lifetime with his writing. I dare say he probably couldn't do so with his painting, but he was focusing on his writing. He did his painting for fun. His writing paid the bills, or his writing fed him the most, but he had to do the drawing and the painting. It's all part of the package, and that's okay. That's perfectly okay. I think we tend to feel guilty for having so many projects in the works. I know I do. I've got 1,000 projects going at any given time. Big ones, little ones, just beginning, not even started, but in full bloom in my brain, in various stages of actual completion. So, there's just a lot of them, and I'm getting better at being okay with that. And I want you to be okay with that too. We get pretty down on ourselves sometimes when we look around at all the projects we haven't finished. Instead of looking at them from a negative point of view, look at them from a positive point of view. It's all part of the package. They're all works in progress. They'll get finished eventually, and if they don't, it's okay. It wasn't the project, wasn't the thing anyway. It was supposed to be the process, the enjoyment of making it, the enjoyment of tearing up paper or throwing around paint or spattering gold stuff all over the place. That's the part that's supposed to be the enjoyment. What's your favorite book? Someone asked a book lover, and they said, the one I'm just about to start. And I love that. I'm a starter. I love starting. I love the brainstorming process, the early process. William S. Burroughs did painting as well. This is 5-color on silk screen. You don't see that very often with text. So he wrote text to go along with his work. Your art journaling and your poetry can go hand in hand. Your slow stitching and your journaling can go hand in hand. Your baking and cooking can go beautifully with junk journaling. Make a junk journal cookbook or an altered book featuring all of your favorite baking materials or ingredients or tools or recipes or pictures. It all works hand in hand. It doesn't have to be one or the other. Lewis Carroll. Looky here. You have to know that's Lewis Carroll. So this is Queen of Hearts, illustration with text from Alice's Adventures Underground. Isn't that wonderful? Just ink work. Just ink on the page, and what a treasure that is. And then there's Alice. Illustration, Lewis Carroll, Large Alice. Is that anything like Large Marge? Was that a different... I think that's a different story. Anyway, if you happen to find this book maybe on eBay or at a thrift store, it's worth it to read the stories of these brilliant writers who are also doodlers and drawers and painters of all kinds. And don't let anyone make you feel, especially you, make you feel bad for being creative in a number of ways. It all counts, and it's all good. And I'm a big believer in staying positively creative. When shit goes sideways and off the rails, make a plan, make art, write a book, read a book. Like, just do something that's positively creative for you. Shift your focus from whatever is upside down to something that will keep your hands busy so you don't lose your mind. I'm a big believer in that too. If I'm busy making and creating, I'm not festering and ruminating and wallowing, right? I'm doing good stuff. And I want to encourage you to do the same. So again, this is called The Writer's Brush. Paintings, Drawings, and Sculptures by Writers by Donald Freeman. And it is from 2007, I think I saw. Yeah, 2007. Worth finding if you happen upon a copy. Always good to chat with you. You go love up those beastlies. Give them lots of extra love. Because that's what they're here for. And that's what they give us. My Tick at the Lake, out for now.